Okay, so I titled this video The Power of Presupposition. So what I'm going to show you is a demonstration of IEMT, which is integral eye movement technique. And this is a very powerful technique. You can use it to great success, and you can look up many videos that show the power of this effect. And if you're looking to experience it for yourself, go try it out. But what this video is I'm going to show you what he's doing, but I'm going to show you the multiple dimensions, the multiple layers of how he's working. Because I have a theory that even though IEMT is powerful and it works very well, he created this modality himself. That underlying it is something that underlies all hypnotic techniques, which is that underneath everything is the power of suggestion, but especially and more specifically in this one is presupposition, which is this idea that everything that he does is very, very streamlined and very, very quick. It's like the fastest mode of therapy you're ever going to find in this, because it's like 5 minutes of what he does here. It's very, very brilliant um, and elegant form of doing things quickly. And I like these kinds of ways of doing things fast because you can expand these kinds of things. You can have lots of ways of talking about stuff. You can have fun with all these different deep techniques of traditional hypnosis. But what he's doing is he's extracting all of those ideas and doing them extremely quickly. And he's calling it IEMT, and that is what's occurring. But underneath every hypnotic technique is what I'm going to demonstrate to you with this video. So what he's going to do is I'm going to play a couple clips from it, and then I'll break down each time what the presupposition is. So let's get started.
Identify the state that it is you want to change, which you already have done. The next thing we're going to do is assign a score of 10.
So I'll just say, he said, identify what it is that you want to change. There's the presupposition, very, very basic with most therapy. You're going to change something. Do you know what it is yet? There's the presupposition that something is going to change. Have you identified it yet? That's very clever. Then the next thing he's doing is saying on a scale of 0 to 10, what's the negative association with this problem that you have? So what he's doing is he's setting up another presupposition that it's at a certain number and it's going to go down. I wonder how much it's going to go down. So she already on an unconscious level is preparing herself. He's helping her to prepare herself for that number that she chooses to change.
So on a score of 10, 10 being really strong, how strong is this?
9.5.
9.5. That is pretty strong.
It is.
And how familiar is this?
Very.
Thought it might be. That's why it's a problem.
Right.
And when is the first time that you can remember feeling this way?
So he does the how familiar is this to you? And she goes, very. So what he does is that gains instant rapport because he goes, oh, I thought it might be. Because what he's doing here is he knows the answer already. When you ask people questions where you know the answer is going to be yes, you automatically get a connection between you and that client because that person feels like you know what they're going through. Of course, it's going to be familiar to her. She chose it as a problem that she wants to change.
Now, it may not be the first time it ever happened. It is the first time that you can remember now.
And here's another one of my favorite things that he does. So he goes, it may not be the first time that it ever happened, because let's say that he went in and he said, I want you to think of the first time this type of feeling ever occurred to you. If she goes in to her memory and has any kind of failure, which, we all have, you go to remember something and you go, I don't remember, that's really, really hard. I have to think through my whole life. Then she's going to feel like she's struggling. So he gives her a way out to feel like, once again, she can automatically get a feeling of, yes, I know what that is. And he bypasses any kind of taking too long to analyze the situation because what he does is another clever thing is he goes, it's not maybe the first time it's happened, but it's the first time you can remember now. So she's going to reach for whatever it is that comes up automatically, which for all we know is the first time. Plus, what he does is an embedded command where he says, you can remember now. and she's ready. So he literally is telling her, you can remember now. And she goes inside and she's beginning to access it.
That's for
How vivid is this memory? It's vivid. Okay, look at my finger. Keep your head nice and still. What I want you to
So
do is
now he's going to do the technique.
memory in mind for as long as you can. If your mind wanders or memory fades, bring it back. I want you to hold on to it for as long as you can. That's good. Head still. All right. What am I thinking? Is my head still?
There's more presupposition here because he's saying, I want you to hold on to that memory. But while she's holding on to it, he's doing some weird shit. So what happened there? I don't have to necessarily get into IEMT. I wouldn't even have to be an expert in IEMT, but I know that what's occurring right now is he's having her do something very, very strange, something that she's not used to doing at all, that has to do with her physical movements, her eyes, which is very much connected to our brain, to our neurology. The eyes, there's a huge connection. You can go all into the neurology of all of that, but that doesn't matter because what we're dealing with here that's most important, what this video is about, is the power of suggestion and presupposition. So she's trying to hold on to a memory, and it's almost like what he's doing, I like to say in like a symbolic ways, he's canceling it out. So that from now on, she's going to have this experience of changing the memory in some way. Something weird is going to happen because she's used to holding on to this memory and thinking of it and accessing it in her old way. But now he's bringing up the memory, and instead of it being the same as it used to be, he did something weird. Something's going to be different. So now I'll tell you what the next thing he does that's a very, very clever language technique is he goes, is it the same? If he had said, is it different? She might go, no. So what you want to try to get past is anyone ever saying no. You're always trying to get agreement and yes, especially from people's unconscious mind. So what he does is goes, is it the same? And a lot of people, what they try to do is they look for a difference. If you say it's the same, and they try to find a way to say no to you, then what you're doing is you actually are hacking the ability of that person to want to resist and deny. So you go, is it the same? And of course it's not. He already knows that it's not, but he's trying to get her participation in this so that she can begin to say to herself out loud, it is not the same.
No, isn't it? When you think about the feeling, it was 9.5 out of 10. What happens to that now?
What happens to that now? Something.
it's
Not as strong. So we're going to repeat the cycle. On a score out of 10, how strong is this feeling?
She's going to look for a difference and she'll find it.
7, so it's coming down. Now,
It's
go
coming
back to
down.
because this is the same kind of feeling, but it's not the same feeling. If it was the same feeling, it would feel the same. This feels differently because it's a different feeling. Right? Makes sense, huh? We tend to think of emotions analogically.
Does that make sense? I have no idea. All I know is this guy's really clever with these hypnotic language patterns, and he just goes, and he just implanted an idea that she feels a completely different feeling. Um, and why not, right? So if she had something that was at a 9.5, now she has something that's at a 7, clearly there's a difference there. And I like what he's doing is he's now implanting in her mind that it's not just a difference in quantity or intensity, but it's a difference in quality. And he wants her to begin to think about it differently. So now he's already adding these presuppositions that there's two different ways that she's already changing. I like how he said it's coming down now, as if it's a process. Instead of it came down, that would mean it stopped. It's coming down now. That gives an implication and a presupposition that the change she is going through is an ongoing process and it will go down even more.
Is that this is a strong version? There's a less strong version? I think feelings are digital.
Here he explains it.
I've never yet found anyone that agrees with me.
She doesn't know if she agrees with it. But she's gonna go with it now because he's being playful.
Familiar with this feeling.
It's gonna be unfamiliar.
Not as familiar.
Of course not.
When's the first time you can remember feeling this feeling? And again, it may not be the first time it ever happened, but it is the first time that you can remember now.
He's repeating the process. And she's automatically going through her life on an unconscious level, searching for other things that need to change. She automatically started with an early part of her. So this is like timeline therapy. So I'm going to pause right here. What's really brilliant about this IEMT stuff is that it includes other forms of therapy. So it automatically does a timeline therapy all by itself because he's saying what's the earliest you can remember now. She starts at 4, and then he goes, okay, give me something else. When's the next time? So she's going through and she's clearing through her life history. And maybe this is a different feeling. And this is what I love about this is she doesn't have to say what the feeling is. She doesn't even have to know because this is all something that she's experiencing. She doesn't have to give a word to it like anger or shame or whatever it would be. She just says, yeah, it was a different feeling and it was in high school. And then watch, he repeats the process.
Keep thinking of that memory. Don't let it go. If your mind wanders, the memory fades, bring it back.
Now he's doing the weird thing. She's trying to access that memory in the same old way. It's not going to work. Imagine someone doing this to you. It's very odd.
Think about it now.
It's all the same stuff we saw before. Of course, it's going to be different.
Doesn't seem different. The question is it the same?
This is very good because sometimes people, when we're trying to be, she's trying to be playful with him and coy, and maybe she's in that high school mode still. But he said, "Is it the same?" She goes, "It doesn't seem different," because she's a little bit resisting. She knows that something is changing right now. So she's playing with the words, but he asked her a specific question, is it the same? But you notice how interesting this is. The way you frame questions can change the way people perceive things. So you go, hey, saying isn't it's not different. Isn't that saying it's the same? But no, watch what occurs.
When you ask a question and they kind of answer it but don't, okay? Repeat it. Do not allow yourself to be fooled and to be led down that path.
Very picky.
Absolutely. And if they tell you it's like 7 or 8 out of 10, it's either 7 or it's 8. You know, let's get specific on everything we do. We're working only with really accurate information.
It's not the same.
There we go.
The more to be with someone, the more you can help them to change. Because then they don't get to, kind of like run around the problem. You hold them to it, and then you move in a new direction. If you don't know where you're starting a race, how do you know if you won first place? You got to be able to start somewhere to go somewhere.
But we could have been fooled. We told it was the same. By the way she ducks the question. How is it different?
How is it different? Another presupposition.
Intense.
It's less than 10. And when you think about the feeling that was 7 out of 10, what happens now?
It was 7 out of 10.
I don't care. I don't care. It was a negative experience and I don't care anymore.
We could have been fooled into believing there was no change.
I don't care. Instead of her saying, oh, I feel so much better, she doesn't even identify with the problem anymore, which sometimes can be a little bit tricky if you think, oh, I need to have some kind of a big breakthrough. Sometimes, instead of the person going through some big emotional experience, what they do is they just no longer identify with it. Or, in other words, I don't care.
Does that make sense from the stuff from yesterday? There was easily a setup there where we could have now followed that path of it doesn't seem any different and struggled, and we could have lost confidence in what we were doing. And before we know it, we're onto another level of a problem. Keeping it very specific and very tight, we can identify very specific avenues of change. Basically, I was trying to get the feeling back to what it was before.
And then 9.5.
Yeah.
So what he does now is she's deepening her state. She's already going through some interesting unconscious stuff. So now that she's in the middle of this process, he can do something slightly more hypnotic where he goes, close your eyes. And what's really good is when you go like I was saying before, use people's own resistance against them. He's saying, I want you to try to get back that feeling. Try is another presupposition that there will be failure. It's not going to work. But he's also doing something clever, which is, let's say that later she was going to go, I was able to get the feeling back. He makes sure in this 5 minutes that before he's finished with this, that he gets her to confirm with him it is gone, and she feels like she did it. She's trying. Not gonna happen though.
As we experience failure and attached to the problem.
Now
Okay?
she's smiling because it's working.
Tend to attach failure to outcomes. All I'm going to do is start coaching people to attach failure to accessing the problem. What happens? Got to interrupt them, by the way, because otherwise they'll sit there all day trying. They will. I haven't got it.
Yeah, people are always going to, if you give them presupposition, they're gonna find an old feeling, like, oh, can you feel terrible again? People can find a way. But he's making sure that she has the experience of trying to go back into an old habit and it not working anymore. And she's smiling because she's realizing that it's working.
Give me a few more minutes. I might be able to get it. Okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I would keep trying.
Yeah, because they've got to test for evidence of the problem rather than testing for evidence of change. What happens?
What he said.
It's not the same.
Isn't that cool?
That is very
And he
cool.
didn't even have to talk about it.
I did.
If you'd like to see me after, I'll give you the invoice.
Okay, this is great stuff. So, you understand now a little bit of presupposition, this can happen in normal conversations that you have with people. It can even happen with therapists who accidentally give people presuppositions that they're going to go back into an old problem and experience it. So, what I want you to think about, and what I love so much about this, is that I'm not talking about IEMT. I'm saying there are a million ways that you can use presupposition to help people to change, as long as you have in mind ahead of time that the end result that you want is some kind of change for that person. And you just know all you need to do is find any presupposition that's going to assume that that's going to happen. And like he was doing, of flipping people's resistance, where he used that example of saying people will look for evidence of success instead of failure. Meaning you can ask someone to go find that 9.5 feeling and really bring it up strongly, really experience it. And he's saying, I want you to try and bring it back. And it's not going to happen. And he got past a lot of resistance in that group of people because, like we were saying, maybe you could try and guess what was going on based on body language, but she didn't have to really talk about what was happening when she was 4 years old or what was going on in high school. Now it's all over and she has a smile on her face and she has that private sense that she has achieved something. So this is just brilliant stuff.